It struck me then, a haunting realization. I had merely existed until I reached 64. Jonathan, what has he kept me from all this time? What have I sacrificed? The turmoil within me was a fierce clash, a haunting rebuke that ignited a desperate awakening. Ethan remained silent, his gaze piercing through me. And in that moment, I found my strength. His gaze held me up, a silent strength that spoke volumes. My fingers trembled as they gripped the straps, pulling them down with a heavy heart. Oh, hello. I didn't see you lurking in the shadows. I was recounting a tale of our harrowing journey. Allow me to begin anew, to reveal the gripping tale of how everything spiraled into chaos. At 64, everything changed. I never imagined that a simple act of cleaning could spiral into chaos, all because my step-grandson appeared out of nowhere. It had been 12 long years since Jonathan's departure, a haunting silence enveloping my heart, a void that felt endless. Late morning light filtered through the cracks as I stood at the basement door, heart racing. Today was the day I would confront the chaos I had long evaded. Just the thought of it sent a shiver down my spine, tightening my chest with dread. Yet, I steeled myself to confront it. The dim room, cluttered with forgotten boxes, the air thick with the scent of decay and echoes of a life once lived. The first box I opened held a shocking secret, an old photo album from my past, stirring emotions I thought were buried deep. Amidst the pages, one haunting photo seized my breath. It came from a beach party, where laughter masked the tension lurking beneath the surface. There I stood, margarita clutched tightly, bright orange bikini clinging to my skin, laughter echoing, masking the storm brewing inside. A young Margaret, radiant and carefree, locked eyes with me, her joy piercing through the silence. The moment I gazed at that photo, a wave of emotions rushed over me. A bittersweet embrace lingered in the air. Buried memories clawed their way to the surface. Desires and excitement I thought I'd locked away surged back, overwhelming me. Suddenly, a noise pierced the silence from the basement door. Heart racing, I spun around, and there he was, Ethan, my late husband's grandson, standing there with a knowing look. For long years had passed since I last laid eyes on him. He stood taller, a man now, his smile both comforting and haunting. He was just 23 the last time our paths crossed. He was 27 now, a number heavy with unspoken stories. "Surprise!" he exclaimed, raising the coffee cup high, a flicker of tension in the air. "Ethan, when did you arrive?" I asked, surprise gripping me, a rush of joy flooding my heart at his unexpected arrival. He replied, his footsteps echoing down the stairs, a moment hanging in the air. "I spotted your car outside and felt compelled to enter. It seems you're in need of assistance." Just as the words formed on my lips, a chilling doubt gripped my heart. I hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. But before I could react, he was there, his expression fierce and resolute for one so young. His gaze fixed on the album I clutched tightly. "What's this?" he demanded, just as I lunged for the photo, desperation clawing at my throat. Time stood still. His gaze was fixed on the haunting image of young Margaret, frozen in time on the beach. He gazed at it, time stretching into infinity, before finally turning to face me. "Is this really you?" "Well, yeah," I replied, my voice trembling with unease. "The wild years of my past haunt me still." Ethan's eyes flickered from the photo to me, a storm brewing in the silence. In his eyes, a storm brewed, admiration clashed with surprise, a silent battle waiting to erupt. It was a chilling contradiction, a haunting warmth that clung to the air. "It's strange to see you this way, yet somehow captivating," he said, a smile playing on his lips. "If these confessions resonate with you, step into my world on my channel for more revelations. Subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what unfolds next. This is a moment you can't afford to overlook." A flicker ignited within me, an elusive spark I couldn't grasp. Feelings long buried, emotions Jonathan had never truly ignited within me, now clawing their way to the surface. They emerged, a fleeting glimpse in the shadows. But this felt all wrong. It was impossible. Enough of this haunting nostalgia. I snapped, slamming the album shut. We must begin the urgent task of removing these ancient boxes from this place. Little did I know, the photo, Ethan's haunting expressions, and the tempest within me were about to lead me down an unforeseen path. Ethan gently reached for the album, stopping me in my tracks. "We must confront this," he said, a flicker of urgency in his voice, straddling the line between jest and truth. "It's shocking to witness you, so youthful, so full of life, yet so changed. We can't stop now. Just a bit further." A heartbeat of doubt gripped me. Some images whispered secrets, shadows lurking behind smiles. Behind the cheerful beach snapshots lay bolder images, moments that revealed the untamed spirit of my youth. But the way Ethan's eyes sparkled with fascination, the weight of his admiration pressing down on me, left me no choice but to agree. "All right?" I whispered, a fragile smile flickering across my lips. Yet some of these photos could be overwhelming. Ethan's laughter echoed, a fleeting sound swallowed by the tension in the air as he nodded, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "I'm sure everything's great," he whispered, clutching the album tightly in his lap. He settled next to me. His presence beside me filled the air with a strange unease. With each turn of the page, the carefree beach party moments faded, revealing haunting glimpses of my college nights lost in the shadows of nightclubs. One photo captured a moment. Me, swaying in my favorite red dress, lost in a carefree night. Ethan's gaze hung heavy on it, time stretching as he lost himself in its depths. "Is this truly you?" he asked, eyes flickering between the photo and me, his face igniting with a blend of wonder and intrigue. "Yeah," I responded, my voice barely a whisper, a rush of heat flooding my cheeks. It was merely youth, a fleeting moment, a whisper of time that held so much weight. Everything changed in an instant. Ethan paused, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "You're incredible," he finally breathed, each syllable laced with unspoken emotion. He hesitated, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "All this time, I saw you as my grandmother, but you were something else entirely. A wild spirit, a party girl." His words ignited a fire within me, leaving me both flushed and trembling with anticipation. Never had Jonathan looked at me with such admiration. The thought lingered, heavy and haunting. Even in my youth, he remained a shadow, distant, cold, and unyielding. But Ethan, he was unlike anyone else. The gaze in his eyes revealed secrets that words could never capture. With each turn of the page, the photos grew more daring, each one a silent scream of untold stories. In a fleeting moment, I laughed with friends, clad in a bikini top and shorts, the sun casting shadows of joy and uncertainty. Another captured me swaying in a dimly lit club, the fabric of my plunging black dress clinging to every heartbeat. Ethan's smile faded, his voice barely a whisper. "It's a privilege to see these." The weight of his words hung in the air, thick with unspoken tension. Your beauty, even in youth, was nothing short of breathtaking. Jonathan stood on the edge of fate, a heartbeat away from everything changing. His words ignited a fire within me, yet they also stirred a chilling unease, something I couldn't quite grasp. The deeper Ethan's gaze pierced me, the more memories it stirred. He reminded me of someone from my past, confident and bold, his presence unsettling yet familiar, eager to unearth the hidden pieces of my soul. As the final page turned, Ethan shut the album, his gaze locked onto mine, heavy with unspoken words. "Margaret," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "You're nothing short of extraordinary." His words struck me like lightning, leaving me breathless and shaken. It felt like an eternity since anyone had gazed at me with such intensity, or whispered words that pierced through the silence of my solitude. As my gaze met Ethan's, the air thickened, charged with unspoken tension. A change was looming. In the chilling, shadowy depths of the basement, an unexpected warmth ignited within me. Ethan's presence reminded me of a past long forgotten, stirring old memories, a fleeting moment that stirred a mix of nostalgia and unease. In that moment, uncertainty gripped me, pulling me deeper into the unknown. As Ethan shut the album, his gaze met mine, filled with an intensity that spoke volumes of unspoken feelings. "Margaret," he whispered, his voice heavy with unspoken truths. "Having seen those haunting images, I must speak now. Not a single year has touched you. Your beauty remains timeless, a haunting echo of youth." The compliment struck me like a lightning bolt, leaving me momentarily speechless. Even in my youth, those words struck me like lightning, especially coming from Jonathan. My heart raced, a flush igniting my cheeks. "Thank you, Ethan," I whispered, but the truth loomed large. "I've aged, and there's no escaping it." I hesitated, heart racing, summoning every ounce of courage before I moved forward. Perhaps age has crept in, but my desires burn brighter than ever. I can't release them. Not now, not ever. Ethan smiled, his green eyes piercing through me, unyielding. "Your beauty is not merely striking. It ensnares the very soul." My gaze lingered on his powerful, athletic form, a fleeting moment that felt charged with unspoken tension. He towered over the crowd, broad shoulders casting shadows, his slightly curled blonde hair framing a face that could steal scenes and hearts alike. Yet, it was the confident yet gentle glimmer in his green eyes that pierced through the silence, leaving my heart racing. Hearing those words from you sent a chill down my spine. With a faint smile, I whispered, "Jonathan was nothing like you. He was a fortress of calm, an enigma wrapped in distance. He always played it safe, never daring to ignite the spark within me. He was a good man." Yet Ethan tilted his head, straining to catch the faintest sound. "But not the man you truly wanted, was he?" he demanded. I wanted to turn my gaze, but something held me captive. Honestly, Jonathan fell short of the excitement and passion I longed for. He wasn't a bad man, yet an emptiness lingered, a shadow of something unspoken between us. Ethan paused, his silence heavy, then offered a smile gentle, yet laced with unshakable confidence. "Perhaps you need to understand this," he whispered, urgency lacing his voice. "Perhaps this is the moment to uncover what truly fills that emptiness." His words ignited a fire within me. In that instant, it struck me, Ethan was not merely unlike Jonathan. He was the embodiment of the man I once yearned for in my dreams. But I was lost, unsure of where these feelings would lead me, or if I was heading down the right path at all. With a heavy silence hanging in the air, Ethan rose, his hands disappearing into the depths of his pockets. His piercing green eyes locked onto mine once more. "I'll just put the bike in the garage and be right back," he said, his voice unwavering, yet a storm brewed beneath the surface. "But you mustn't linger in the basement, Margaret. Stay in the living room. Don't move. Just wait for me." His commanding tone and decisive presence sent a shiver down my spine, leaving me breathless and uncertain. I nodded, a flicker of uncertainty crossing my mind. "Fine, Ethan," I whispered. Ethan ascended the stairs, each step echoing with urgency. I stood frozen, grappling with the realization that his passion for the motorcycle was weaving itself into the fabric of my own heart. I pictured him, lost in concentration, or feeling the rush as he rode it, the world blurring around him. He was everything I had ever yearned for, a whirlwind of energy and passion, a fierce determination that ignited my dreams from the past. "He mirrors every dream I ever had," I whispered, my heart racing. "He's my step-grandson, yet in this moment, his impact on me is undeniable." I stepped into the living room, heart racing, and waited in the shadows. Ethan reappeared, a bottle of wine clutched tightly in his hand. It was the rose I cherished most. His knowledge struck me like lightning, and in that moment, a fire ignited within, fierce and undeniable. "Will you accept it? The weight of my hope hangs in the air. Do you feel it?" I gasped in disbelief. "Ethan, how did you know this was my favorite wine? Feels like you've read my heart." He shrugged, his expression heavy with unspoken words, a silent plea for understanding that hung in the air. In my youth, the smallest details whispered secrets to me. It seems my memory holds true. I held my breath, time hanging in the balance. His recollection of me pierced through the silence, stirring emotions I thought long buried. Ethan, I whispered, this wine. It's extraordinary, so deeply meaningful. Thank you for everything. The weight of those words hangs heavy in the air, a bittersweet farewell that lingers in the silence. He uncorked the bottle, the sound echoing in the silence, and filled 2 glasses, his hand trembling slightly as he offered one to me. Tonight, let's create some unforgettable memories. Margaret, he whispered, his voice heavy with unspoken tension. I lifted my glass, and we clinked, a moment suspended in time. With the first sip, the rose-esque flavor ignited my senses, but my gaze remained locked on Ethan, a tension hanging in the air. In the midst of our exchange, an undeniable pull gripped me. It wasn't merely his appearance. It was the depth of his thoughts and the weight of his presence that ensnared my heart. As our glasses teetered on the edge of emptiness, Ethan's gaze pierced through the air, locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. His gaze held a warmth, an irresistible pull that ensnared my heart. Something stirred within me, a tumult of fear and excitement, yet the destination of these emotions remained a mystery. In an instant, Ethan froze. He placed the glass on the table, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. This time, his gaze pierced through the shadows, fierce and unyielding. Margaret, he whispered, his voice trembling with uncontainable emotion. As I gazed at him, a sudden rush of breath caught in my throat. My heart raced, a relentless drumbeat echoing in the silence. Yes, Ethan, I whispered, my voice barely audible as if it couldn't manage more. In that instant, Ethan's hand found mine, a silent plea hanging in the air. His fingers brushed against my hand, igniting a storm of feelings within me. My heart races as the words hang in the air, a forbidden truth waiting to be unleashed. He started. When I look at you, I just can't stop myself. You're not just incredibly beautiful, you're so much more than I ever imagined. His words echoed somewhere deep inside me, and I felt my face flush. Ethan, I started, but before I could finish, he hesitated for just a moment before leaning in. That moment my heart felt like it was about to stop. Watching him move closer, I knew I should say no, but I couldn't fight the powerful pull I felt toward him. When his lips touched mine, slow and deliberate, the world seemed to pause for an instant. That kiss, it was gentle but also deep. I felt desires I'd suppressed for years suddenly come flooding back. As his strong hands moved to my waist, I let myself fully surrender to the moment. When Ethan's lips pulled away from mine, I could feel the tension between us lingering in the air. My heart was still pounding like crazy. I looked at him, hoping my eyes could somehow express what I was feeling, but putting those emotions into words seemed impossible. In that moment, driven by an impulse I couldn't ignore, I leaned in and kissed him again. This time it was me making the move. As my lips pressed against his once more, something inside me felt alive again. Ethan seemed a little surprised at first, but he quickly responded. Our kiss became deeper, more passionate. His hands slid to my waist, his strong fingers pulling me closer with a gentle yet firm touch. I could feel his warmth radiating through my entire body. As we lay side by side on the couch, there was barely any space left between us. His presence consumed the air, his breath a haunting whisper, enveloping the moment in an unbreakable grip. As I leaned against Ethan's chest, an unsettling tension coiled within me. My heart raced, but this time it was not from fear or doubt. A fierce longing to release everything consumed her. I sat up, heart racing, under the weight of his intense, searching gaze. His eyes pierced through the silence, a storm of understanding swirling within them, unraveling the chaos inside me without a whisper. As I rose, doubt gripped me, my heart racing, surrendering to an overwhelming, fierce desire. My fingers trembled as they brushed against the delicate straps of my dress, now feeling like chains that bound me in place. Ethan remained silent, his gaze piercing through me. And in that moment, I found my strength. His gaze held me, a silent strength that spoke volumes. As my fingers clutched the straps, a shiver ran through me. I pulled them down, and the dress cascaded off my shoulders, pooling softly at my feet. The fabric enveloped my bare feet, a soft, treacherous puddle waiting to ensnare me. At last, I gasped for air, the weight lifting, but shadows lingered close. It was more than mere action. It was a release, a powerful unshackling of years spent in silence, a desperate cry for freedom. As I looked back at Ethan, the intensity of his admiration hit me like a thunderclap. Silence hung heavy between them, yet he knew. The weight of unspoken words lingered in the air, thick with tension. I shattered my boundaries, embracing every part of who I am. Ethan rose, his hands stretching toward me, a silent plea hanging in the air. His touch lingered, a mix of tenderness and strength, igniting a storm within. This time, I wasn't merely holding him. I was holding every part of me, raw and exposed. 15 minutes stretched into eternity as I remained frozen on the couch, every muscle tense, every breath a whisper. Just on the brink of darkness, I fought to stay conscious. Perhaps it was the weight of years spent yearning that forged this unexpected strength within me. Ethan's imposing figure had always captivated me. But now, the depth of my desire surged, consuming every thought. Breathless, I stood on the edge, feeling as if the world had vanished, leaving only silence in its wake. My heart pounded, my body shook, and every fiber of my being was electrified by his presence. For the first time, I was overwhelmed, my body trembling with a thrilling fatigue that ignited every nerve. It wasn't a boundary, it was a breaking free. Amidst the chaos of my feelings, a haunting thought crept into my mind. Until this moment, I had merely existed, I realized. Jonathan, what has he kept me from all this time? What have I held back from myself all this time? This inner turmoil surged like a storm, a silent uprising and a long-awaited revelation colliding within. Ethan gasped, his heart racing, fingers tangled in his hair. His pain mirrored mine, a silent bond that both terrified and soothed me. He offered a fleeting smile, his fingers running through his disheveled hair. In a whisper, he declared, "I'm going to take a shower." In that fleeting instant, his eyes sparkled with unspoken promises. His voice trembled with a haunting softness, and beneath it all lay a fierce, unwavering resolve. In an instant, reality crashed down, heavy and undeniable. As Ethan faded into the distance, my heart raced, trapped in the turmoil of recent revelations. The joy of self-discovery clashed with the pain of lost time, leaving me breathless and yearning. If you've come this far, my story has surely gripped your heart. What lies ahead is beyond imagination, and you cannot afford to look away. Don't miss a moment. Hit that follow button, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts on this gripping tale. Your thoughts are everything. Let's dive into the comments and unravel the mystery together. Your support is everything to me,